and wildlife and all that stuff. And thank you very much for doing this, but I have some questions that I want to hit you guys with, and I want answers to them.
Well, that's the whole part. We were going to let them present what they do in each one of their jobs, and then we have a 45-minute session for them to take questions. And that's a long time, really, for them to take questions. So we're going to get to that question and answer session. But before we do that, I want you guys to know that the commission itself is appointed, 5 members of the board are appointed by the governor, usually his friends, people that probably have never even picked up a weapon. They corrected me, and when I said it up at Tehachapi, there's one that hunts, right? One of them was Steinberg's chief of staff, one was a Democrat campaign consultant for the statewide. You know, there's people that are the governor's friends that actually have to make the decisions. These guys have over 120 years worth of experience in fish and wildlife. They all hunt, they all are very, you know, they're like us. They really are. I've got to know them over the last day and a half. They really are just like us. But they make recommendations to the commission based on what they think for the environment. And then the commission makes their own decision, which affects us. But they do make recommendations, and some of the recommendations, like if you want to ask about the lead ammunition ban, that was a great question that was up there. They went to bat for all of us and said, you're not going to be able to do it. You know, 80% of the weapon, 8% of the ammunition is non-lead. You know, they have a great backing for us. They just can't make the decisions because they're not the commission that's appointed by the governor. So now we're going to take questions. First question, go ahead.
On that note with the commission, how do we change the process of that and have where these are?
I'll explain all that. So let me deal with the budget question.
Okay.
We have 13 trout hatcheries dispersed up and down the state. 33% of every dollar that's spent from a fishing license sales automatically gets deposited into a fund. It's called the Hatchery Inland Fisheries Fund. So your fishing license dollars, of which is about $67 million, is brought into the department from the sale of fishing licenses. The rest of that, the 66 remaining percent, funds our law enforcement staff, our fisheries management staff, and some administrative support. So $33 goes automatically to trout hatcheries. That 33% is about anywhere between $19 to $20 million annually based upon the number of fishing license sales. $2 million is pulled right off the top for wild trout management. Kern River rainbows, California golden trout, Volcano Creek golden trout. $2 million right off the top. So if we're at 19 million, that's down to 17 million. In the years that Dean showed here from 2006 through 2015, for the years of 2012, 13, and 14, we were given access to $2 million additional. So instead of 17 million, I'm dealing with 19 million. We were able to keep our production levels up. That extra $2 million went away last year. Our bad. Why? We didn't have our ducks in a row to get access to some federal money because of some legal requirements all related back to that lawsuit Dean talked about. So I'm at $17 million last year. This year, the legislature and the governor in the governor's budget gave us $800,000 for 3 years.
Out of the goodness of their heart.
No, this is all your money. It's not being siphoned off into the state general fund or anything. It is by law stays in this account. But what nobody wants to recognize is from 2008 through 2015, the price of my fish food has gone up 72%. The price of my electricity has gone up. The price of my keeping my vehicles on the road has gone up. These guys last year, a year and a half ago, were down to 1 hatchery truck. Why? Air Resources Board clean air vehicle requirements. We had to bolt on catalytic converters onto 1980s diesels that these guys, when they were rolling up the hill up to Lake Isabella, were stopping every 1 hour and spending 2 hours burning off the catalytic converters. I'm just letting you know, our costs have gone up tremendously.
I understand.
So is the license cost.
So is the license, but wouldn't it be better, I think because the license costs are going up and the fisheries costs are going up, wouldn't it be better to sell more fishing licenses?
Absolutely.
How are we going to do that? We just had the opportunity to do it and it got turned down again. Why?
So let's talk about recruitment, retention, and reactivation. So the youth are the future, and we have to get a targeted campaign to get more youth fishing. And you talk about the price inflator for the fishing license fees. It really hasn't kept up with the cost of operating our hatcheries. They're 75 years old on average. Every time we turn around, there's something breaking, something's falling apart, and we're working to try to remediate that deferred maintenance. There's money in that account to fix some of this stuff. Not enough to fix it all. But that being said, we are working diligently. We need to do an efficiency operation. Are we operating in the most efficient manner as possible? I don't think we are. We have facilities that the cost of pumping water and electricity are through the roof. It's costing $7.11 to produce 1 pound of fish. On another hatchery, they're operating at $2.16. So we need to figure out how we can do better with your money to make this operation a better thing. There's no excuses here. I'm just the
No,
facts.
I didn't say that, never thought that.
On the cost of the license, that is actually set by the legislature, it's in the Fish and Game Code. and it's
That's
indexed
another
to
point I
inflation.
want to make, is that everybody here needs to start talking to their state legislatures and not allow them to get away with crap like that. You know, enough. We need to sell more licenses, and they need to stop doing that, raise a license every year. They just need to sell more licenses. The only way they can do that is make it easier for people to buy licenses and get back to fishing.
Brad,
Could you guys, rather than doing it yourself, because I know our government is very efficient, could you possibly go out and buy the fish from a private contractor, take the money, buy from them?
So
Contract them to plant the fish and let them.
it's actually more expensive, sir.
It's a lot more expensive.
It's about $3.80 a pound through a private,
I have a lot of experience with that with Mono County, the Mono County Fisheries Commission, what they pay for fish, what we produce fish over on the east side. It costs you, it's gonna cost you a couple bucks more a fish to do it
Is
that way.
that because they don't do it on an ongoing basis? or-
No, we're talking outdoor trout, we're talking guys that farm fish year round, wind up going out of business because of the cost of fish food, to be honest with you. But the state of California, to be honest with you, our hatcheries, that it's amazing what they do with the money that they have. I mean, it really is.
And where does the other 2/3 of the money go? You said 1/3 went to the fisheries. Where's it?
So,
how do the 2/3 out?
the 66% goes to law enforcement, fisheries management, and some other tasks.
where's the original, but there's $400 million in budget, correct?
Yes, the hunting and fishing license fees are about a quarter of the department's budget.
So what does the other money come from?
The other money comes from federal trust funds. So you guys, when you go out to a sporting goods store and you buy a fishing rod, a reel, there's a 10% excise tax that's collected by the federal government from the manufacturers. Based upon the number of people we have in the state of California and the number of fishing licenses, we get about $17 million to the state of California for fisheries work. On our wildlife side, it's Pittman-Robertson bill that institute that, so every time you buy bullets, guns, powder, anything like that, that all comes in, and then we get some other funds, so that's another half.
If they collect $50 million in tax from California, how much of that do we get back? After the federal.
From the federal, the excise tax, California gets the maximum amount of dollars under the formula that the feds use. We get the maximum amount for fish. We don't necessarily get the most for the wildlife side, but because of the Obama bullet bump, as we call it, all the guns and bullets and stuff that have been sold over the last 4 years, these guys have gotten a huge increase in wildlife restoration funds.
If I may on the budget as well, if you look at our budget, it does look like a very large budget, but the Department of Fish and Wildlife's budget is probably one of the most complex documents for a state agency out there. I believe we have at least 24 different funds that we utilize.
Actually 70.
Those funds are stovepipe and can only be used for certain things. So it may look like you're flush with money, but you can't use it, you know, your hands are tied because they say you can only use it for this, or you can only use it for this. So because of that stovepiping, appearances and what we can actually spend are two very different things. On the law enforcement side, we receive a percentage of the hunting and fishing dollars, but the lion's share of our funding is actually coming from the state general fund. We get more general fund regular tax dollars than any other part of the department. The The rest of the department is trying to function on the other stuff. And then we have a whole non-game program, that habitat conservation program that's funded by permit fees and other things that technically can't be funded by your hunting and fishing dollar.
Your hunting and fishing dollars by law are required to go to Fish and Wildlife Management.
John?
One of the programs you have is the lifetime hunting and fishing licenses, which I have and I got from my kids to help mitigate the cost of going up. And I know that goes into a special fund. How much money is in that fund? How much benefit do you get from that? And as a possible solution, do you not set aside part of what comes in for over a period of years to accumulate more capital investments to make it, to invest in fisheries and hatcheries for, rather than use it regular budget?
Absolutely. The lifetime fishing and hunting licenses goes into the same non-dedicated fishing game preservation fund. I'm going to use some jargon here, please be patient. The non-dedicated fund. Those funds for your license can only be used for fish and wildlife management. If your lifetime fishing license, if you bought one, 33% of that $700 or $800 automatically goes into the hatchery fund, okay? Of that hatchery fund, $1 million every year is set aside for capital improvements. And those capital improvements are what we talk about as repairing the concrete raceways, being able to buy some filtration units, or be able to improve water supply and things like that. But I gotta tell you, trying to keep up with 75-year-old infrastructure is a never-ending battle.
You have a question? Sorry.
Sure, I've got a question. So the stocking program, I know we're not done with the year, but I mean, it looks like it's down about 50% this year. So just to clarify, you're saying everyone's budget is down 50%, or the cost has went up so much, that's why the stocking?
The cost has gone up. So this year's budget is the same as what last year's was, but we have $800,000 extra dollars to feed into buying fish food.
So you're going to say that the cost doubled from 14 to 15? That doesn't.
72% on fish food alone.
Just in last year.
And I got to tell you, this year we're paying $1.50 a pound for fish food that we paid 80 cents in 2008. I know it doesn't make sense.
So I mean, last year to this year.
No, I lost $2 million because the legislature had given me access
Correct.
to
And now
a
we're only at 800
surplus.
back. So we're 1.2 down, divided by 33%. That's that big of a hit that it's
Yeah.
50% less stocking than last year.
It all comes out in fish food.
Wait, just a minute, Steve, wait.
Yes, we're using the state's, we're using the state's buying power, and believe me, that's a pretty big hammer. And still, the cost nationally and internationally, the cost of fish food went through the roof.
We also have some real production related to drought.
Yeah, drought has crippled us. 6 hatcheries are shut down because of drought.
Okay, right there.
2 questions about fish food. The first one is, what drove the cost of fish food up? And second is, what percentage of the hatchery budget in 2015 is dedicated to fish food?
Greg, do you know?
Well, fish food is the second largest cost other than personnel in our hatcheries. So
All right, so labor is your highest cost by far in fish food.
But labor is funded from the general fund,
I
correct?
understand that, but they're funded by 133% of
Yeah.
fishing licenses. So if fish food is, let's say, 20% of your total budget, I bet it's not even that much.
No, it's-
Still,
no, it's more than that.
Really?
for instance, San Joaquin hatchery historically would grow 400,000 to 500,000 pounds. You can, as Stafford mentioned, if it was $1 a pound, there you go,
In terms of your fish legs, I know you've got some real efficient operations in San Joaquin where it's like costing you a buck or two.
It's a little over $2, as Stafford mentioned,
Per pound of
$2.15.
fish that you produce. How much of that cost is fish? Of that $2 a pound?
Yeah, probably half or thereabouts.
And
So, but what's driven the cost of fish food?
what's driven, it's the materials that they're using to make it out of, fish meal and all that stuff. I'm not into the science, but believe me, We go through a pretty extensive budget contract process to purchase this fish food at the lowest rate, and it still went up, even under contract. They have their inflation bumps in it too. It makes my head hurt.
Steve,
But-
sorry, we're going back to Steve.
Well,
Sorry.
I was just, listen, I was wondering who the purchasing agent was. Because maybe we need a change.
No, it's an international market.
Go ahead.
Sort of went off the budget, and I think you kind of touched on this. A lot of us with this drought going on, what are the long-term effects of the lakes, like Lake Isabella? I mean, you're saying that the habitat is down, there's not as many fish. When we do get water, hopefully this year, are we going to see it bounce right back, or is that a couple of years before?
So, statewide drought has really affected our fish and wildlife species. So these critters, they just can't get up, a lot of them. Wildlife can move, birds can fly, fish can't. And as one of my colleagues says, you can only kill them once. Dry up the stream, dry up the lake, they're gone. But the beauty of the Lake Isabella, when it's down this low for this long,